A EU strategy to contain the Trump anomaly. I recommend analytical cool-headedness. After the anomaly of the Trump administration, the U.S. presidential elections of November 2028 will most likely produce a leadership that is different and more aligned with its allies. This probabilistic trajectory could be weakened by irreparable actions on the part of Donald Trump and by excessive reactions from allies in the short and medium term that might trigger his aggressiveness. Therefore, giving priority to actions that prevent economic and financial destabilization of the global system, I recommend that European governments pursue three combined measures: A. A sponge strategy in the short term, B. A strategy of selective reglobalization through an expansion of customs and trade agreements worldwide, C. Always maintaining confidence that America has the capacity to contain the divergent excesses of the Trump anomaly. Point C has been carefully assessed within the Euro-American Research Group I coordinate, where the U.S. side includes centrist scholars with both Democratic and Republican sensibilities. Data: 1. A U.S. military operation aimed at occupying Greenland would require congressional approval, as would withdrawing from NATO, and part of the Republican Party would withdraw its support from Trump. 2. Violating customs agreements with the EU, and extending this threat to other allies, such as Canada, would inflict significant economic damage on the United States itself, especially in the run-up to the midterm congressional elections in November 2026. 3. Current economic data, which, incidentally, the Trump administration is attempting to massage, indicate a widening gap between rich and poor. This is one of the factors behind Trump's significant loss of support within the middle class that had previously voted Republican, despite a certain degree of GDP growth. 4. Trump's attempt to offset this loss of support through imperial nationalism has some effect on the MAGA electorate, but not enough. 5. Several figures within the administration are trying to rein in Trump, albeit without open confrontation. These data suggest that Europeans should avoid overreacting and instead adopt negotiating behaviors that buy time to smooth out divergences and secure compromises, without excessive concessions, given the polls showing European aversion to Trump's leadership, in a way that allows Trump himself a path to step back. The key issue here is preserving relations with a future, different America, one in which a new leadership in Washington may recognize that it can maintain global primacy within an alliance of democracies, an expanded G7, rather than as a solitary imperial power. Probability? There is a probabilistic hope, but not yet a clear trajectory. This makes it rational for the EU to act in the short term like a sponge, absorbing U.S. excesses, while simultaneously accelerating trade agreements with India and Australia, without forgetting renewed convergence with the United Kingdom and the confirmation of Mercosur, as well as strengthening agreements with Canada and Japan, and developing a strategic projection toward Africa. Italy? In the scenario described, it would stand to gain the most, with benefits that could be multiplied through strategic bilateral partnerships. In conclusion, a greater degree of analytical and behavioral cool-headedness on the part of European governments appears advantageous, while at the same time preparing a strategy to replace or integrate an American PAX that has become too small on the global stage with either a new, more Eurocentric PAX or a restored Euro-American convergence. Updates: www.carloplanda.com